Thank you, G-Defy, for being a sponsor of Newsmax podcast. G-Defy shoes are the best choice for walking, running, and standing. If you spend a lot of time on your feet, these are the shoes for you. G-Defy's patented Verso shock technology aligns your posture and perfects your gait. Go to gdefy.com and use the code MAX for $30 off on orders of $130 or more.
Welcome to a new week and a new month. Monday, July 1st, 2024. We're exactly halfway through the year, believe it or not. The 183rd day with 183 to go. The first of 5 Mondays this month and the first day of the rest of your life. So cliche, I know, but yet so powerful, right? The first day of the rest of your life. Hopefully you had a great weekend. It was not only a busy weekend of news, as is typically the case, but it was busy in general, right? As you likely started preparing for the upcoming Independence Day holiday. Everywhere I went, every store I went to, every shopping center I went by seemed to just be packed. The fallout from President Biden's debate performance continuing throughout the weekend as well, as did the campaigning by both presidential candidates. But before we dive into the weekend shows or take a look at some of the headlines, I have to go back to a Biden event in Georgia on Friday. This is the morning after the debate. For all the people that have not seen this, have not heard it, I had to put it in.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts.
Yes, that's the First Lady. Joe, you did a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the answers. Like she's praising a toddler learning to use the potty or something. And these are some of the headlines from the weekend. The White House staff were shocked at President Biden's performance against former President Donald Trump. That's from Axios. In that same report, White House staff say Biden is only dependably engaged for a few hours a day. CNN, very honest and serious conversations happening within the Democratic Party following the debate. CBS, new poll, 72% of Americans polled say Biden is unfit mentally. The New York Times, to serve his country, President Biden should step down. Yet this morning, NBC News and others report that the president's family, especially his son Hunter, is encouraging him to stay in the race. House Speaker Mike Johnson, who has spent a lot of time with the president, spoke with Newsmax host Tom Basile on America Right Now.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday you suggested that the 25th Amendment should be invoked. Now you have the New York Times editorial board saying that he should step aside. You've got the Time magazine cover of him walking off the page. After what you saw, and certainly your reaction, do you think he's really running the country at this point?
I don't. I haven't thought that for quite some time. You know, I'm in an interesting position because I spent a lot of time with President Trump. I was with him the week before the debate and talked with him a few days before. But I also have spent time, of course, with the president because I'm the Speaker of the House. The current president is not on his A game. I take no pleasure in saying this because what we're watching here is a dangerous display. Our enemies, our adversaries around the world are watching this just as we are. And that's the reason that Iran and Russia and China and North Korea have all formed this new axis of evil. Mm-hmm. They're acting provocatively because they see weakness projected on the world stage. We can't afford to do this any longer. And I have been saying for some time that I don't think President Biden is actually running the country. I think there's a small group of advisors. Many of them are very progressive leftists who are trying to push their various agendas. And they put things in front of him to sign that he's not even fully aware of. And, this has been going on for a while. We've been ringing the alarms for a while. It's kind of surprising to me that it took people this long to catch on. But that's because there was a false narrative being pushed forward every day by White House staffers and Democrats in Congress trying to tell people that what they were seeing was not true. Forget your lying eyes. And now the truth is out there on display.
House Speaker Mike Johnson on Saturday's edition of America Right Now, where he also discussed the scheduled upcoming visit of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
You and Chuck Schumer have invited the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, to address a joint session of Congress later in July. There are Democrats that are already saying that they are going to boycott. You stood on the steps of Columbia University. You took booze for a half hour, but you went there. You've seen this acceptance of anti-Semitism within the Democratic establishment be excused? Pro-Hamas, anti-Israel, anti-Jew, anti-Americanism, and it's kind of being explained away. Your thoughts on this dramatic shift that we've seen in just the last number of months?
This is exactly how I describe it. I mentioned I've been traveling all around the country, and I go to blue states and swing districts and places that we're not always expected to be. And there's a great joy in that because we're seeing a demographic shift in the country. We have a record number of Hispanic and Latino voters coming into the Republican Party, record number of black voters, African Americans who are coming enthusiastically into the party because they want solutions. And the Jewish community is so animated. Why? Because they see that President Biden and the Democrat Party are abandoning Israel. They're actually siding with the wrong side here. You know, this is good versus evil. It's light versus darkness. Hamas and Hezbollah are proxies of Iran. This is an evil terrorist regime. They want to take Israel down, and they would like to take down America as well. We need elected officials like Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden and the rest to speak with moral clarity in this moment. We have to do this. I had to drag Chuck Schumer kicking and screaming over the line to sign the letter to invite Prime Minister Netanyahu to address Congress.
And he's claims to be Jewish.
He boasts that he's the highest elected official in U.S. history that is Jewish, and yet he tries to play both sides in this conflict because they have a political problem. There is a pro-Palestinian, I say pro-Hamas wing in the Democrat Party now, and it's going to have serious effects, I think, on the election in November.
Again, that's House Speaker Mike Johnson on Newsmax. And let's go to Saturday Report with Rita Cosby on Newsmax.
Let's bring in New York Republican Congresswoman and member of the House Ways and Means Committee, Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, it's great to see you. Thank you.
Always great to see you, Rita.
You know, things really have gone from bad to worse for President Biden since the debate. He was trailing in many polls before the debate. And now the New York Times, of all places, their editorial board is calling for the president to drop out of the race, saying do it for the good of the country. Did we witness the nail in the coffin this week for President Biden?
Well, Rita, I first thought that as I was watching the debate, and within 15 minutes, I tweeted out that, okay, I see why we had this pre-convention debate set up. It was to give an excuse for the Democrats to get Joe Biden out. But the more I watched the reaction, of course, the media was horrified on the left-wing side, and the Democrats are scrambling. But I don't think they're going to take Joe Biden out right now, which is interesting. And I'll say for two reasons. Number one, they've got to drag Jill Biden's carcass out of the way, and they've got to step over Kamala to get there. And secondly, President Obama actually indicated that Joe should stay. And that was curious because guess who's probably really running the government? Obama and his team behind the scenes. They're the shadow government in the background, making sure everything goes. And when you look at a Soviet-style government or a machine politics-style government, which is what the Democrats have, it doesn't matter who they prop up in front. It's what they can do in the back. And as long as they can get Biden to sign off on some things and he's passable, that's what they're saying. But even President Obama said, look, everybody has a bad debate day. This was beyond a bad debate day, though, to me. This was a national security threat. Our enemies were watching this. It is very scary to me to think that even the shadow government and what's happening, our enemies aren't emboldened by watching that pathetic performance by Joe Biden the other night.
Yeah, and by the way, it doesn't seem like Joe Biden wants to go either, because when he was at the rally in North Carolina, he kind of equated himself almost to Rocky, like he got knocked down, but he's coming back up. What did you make of that?
You know, it's when he's got the teleprompter and they have the right cocktail of whatever kind of painkiller drugs or whatever he's taking to keep him alive. I think they didn't do a good job of that on the debate. His first 15 or 20 minutes in that debate were absolutely disastrous, as it's been shown over and over. But I think President Trump showed that he was sound on a lot of the issues. He was strong. He almost looked like, how can I be debating this guy? How can this guy be the president of the United States? And look at the policies that I put in place, which he set forth. And he was able, and actually what I thought was also interesting, Rita, is CNN was stunned. They shouldn't have been stunned. They all have been covering up Biden's condition. But what they were upset about is that the CNN moderators didn't push back enough on Trump. That's the job of the other person you're debating, not the media. And for once, the media actually was trying to be neutral on this, even though they thought they were setting up the perfect storm for Trump to be triggered and to make a mistake and to have a disaster somehow. Trump maintained his self-discipline, his composure, and stayed on the issues, which I think they weren't expecting.
New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney on Saturday Report. If you were busy all weekend and missed some of the weekend shows on Newsmax, Lidia Curanaj spoke with former HUD Secretary and retired neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson.
President Trump, very statesmanlike during the debate. I was very impressed by him, as I'm sure you were. But this is a sad state of affairs to have the president of the United States, Joe Biden, look so weak and so frail on the world stage. And now you also have the New York Times editorial board. They're even asking Joe to step down, quote, for the good of the country. What do you think, sir? Do you agree?
Well, I felt very sorry for the man, to be honest with you. But the worst thing is it's not just us here in America who are seeing this. The whole world is seeing this. They're seeing that we have no leadership in this country. And I'm sure that might occasion some aggression from some of our adversaries. So this is a very serious situation. It's putting the people of this country at risk. Obviously, you're not going to be able to say that he's the sharpest tack in the drawer anymore. All of this inappropriate statements by the other side, I think, will melt away now. And now they have to deal with practicalities of how do you get rid of him? And I don't think they're going to be able to do it because he's wanted to be president, since he was young. Right. And he's not going to give it up easily, that's for sure.
He does seem like a stubborn man, and you almost wonder, was he set up because they knew just how frail he is, and maybe this was the only way to convince him, listen, Joe, you gotta go?
That is Dr. Ben Carson, of course, and some of the people that would likely play a role in asking Joe to go are still defending him and his presidency, like 84-year-old former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who told CNN's State of the Union over the weekend with Dana Bash, who moderated the debate, that Donald Trump is the one with dementia.
And by the way, while the press, and for some reason they don't, there are healthcare professionals who think that Trump has dementia, that his connection, his thoughts do not go together. And while he may be saying we're enablers, we see Joe Biden up close. We know how attuned he is to the issues, how informed he is. And I debate with him about legislation, and not debate, but discuss it with him. He's right there. So in any case, it was a bad night. Let's not sugarcoat that.
I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, right? I don't know if they think people are that dumb or they are just that full of themselves. I don't know. Can you imagine what a conversation between President Biden and Nancy Pelosi would be like? So there you go. Donald Trump is the one with dementia, and she's sticking with Joe, at least publicly, right? And I'm going to go back to Lidia Curanaj for a moment because she mentioned something that I have mentioned several times on the podcast over the last few months.
Just 10 minutes into the debate, and we knew it was game over for Joe Biden. Thursday night's first presidential debate, exposing the lies that the Biden propaganda networks, they've been telling the world for years now. Take a look.
But comparing that guy's mental state, I've said it for years now, he's cogent. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been.
That was MSDNC's Joe Scarborough just a few months ago. That was in early March. Did you hear what he said, cogent, and praising his mental cognitive, of Joe Biden? Really? Well, now take a listen to what Joe Scarborough said Friday morning after Joe Biden's debate performance.
The window is closing very quickly. And if Joe Biden is not up to doing this, and if last night did not reveal that to you and other Democrats, then it needs to be revealed pretty soon.
Oh, boy, that must have been some humble pie, right? That it probably tasted pretty bitter for Joe Scarborough there. Maybe he washed it down with some beers, as he and Mika like to crack a few on their show now and then, right? They did so. Remember that, the whole Milwaukee thing? They tried to slam President Trump, who, by the way, President Trump, okay, say what you want to say about Joe Biden, but President Trump, he put on a master class on how you should conduct yourself during a debate.
We get a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good.
We finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. The Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border? I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Hey, let's not act like children.
President
Trump, we're going to
let's not act like children.
How many times have I mentioned Morning Schmo saying that this is the best Joe Biden ever? But at least he's being honest about it now. As the countdown to Election Day and the campaigning continues, President Trump has a very busy July ahead of him now that we're into July. First off, the Republican National Convention begins on July 15th in Nashville. The Democratic National Convention is not until August 19th. That's happening in Chicago. By the way, if you got fed up with all the rain delays at yesterday's NASCAR race in Nashville, my guy Joey Logano was the eventual winner of the Ally 300 with a record 5th overtime, stretching the 300-lap race to 331 laps. Congratulations to Logano and Team Penske. Anyway, days before the Republican National Convention, the former president will be sentenced for his convictions in the New York hush money case. And then right after the convention, July 19th, New Jersey regulators, I mentioned this a week or two ago, New Jersey regulators will be holding a hearing on whether 2 of the Trump golf courses in that state should have their liquor licenses renewed following the felony convictions in New York. And one of the big liberal media talking points today to deflect from the president is former Trump aide Steve Bannon reporting to prison today for his contempt of Congress charge. You remember that, right? Contempt of Congress. That was for not responding to the subpoena. The same thing that Attorney General Merrick Garland and DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas could be hit with as Capitol Hill gets back to work today. President Biden and the First Lady are back at Camp David today, presumably resting, I guess, after all their weekend campaigning. And the other big story, the Supreme Court. We wrap it up with Judge Andrew Napolitano on Wake Up America.
Judge, good to have you on. I want to get to the Trump immunity stuff, but I just a question about after this debate Thursday night, this 90-minute debacle for our incumbent commander-in-chief. I'm wondering if we are now, 11 days away from sentencing day for Donald Trump in Lower Manhattan. Based on Joe Biden's bad performance and the bump that Trump will inevitably get in the polls after that debate, do you think this has any impact on what Judge Juan Merchan does in Lower Manhattan? Because now they've got to get Trump, Judge. They've got to get him now.
I certainly hope not, but I will tell you that I keep hearing rumblings of fear on the part of Republicans who hope that Justice Merchan will be the instrument by which Trump is kept off the campaign trail in light of President Biden's awful performance on Thursday night. But that would violate canons of judicial ethics and would violate New York state law because events outside the courtroom are not to be taken into account when sentencing. Sentencing is largely mechanical. There is some subjective judgment, but it's largely mechanical. You are checking boxes for aggravating factors and mitigating factors. And the initial boxes you check are, does the defendant have a prior criminal record? No. Is the defendant a danger to society? No. How badly did the defendant harm any victims? Answer, there were no victims in this case. So every indication is a non-custodial sentence. And there is no place for politics in this whatsoever.
Well, you hope there's no place for politics, but we'll have to see what happens.
I hope there's no place.
Yeah.
You're right, Alison. I hope there's no place for politics.
We all hope so. Judge, I want to talk about...
the law says there's no place for politics.
Exactly. Judge, I want to talk about the Supreme Court ruling that's expected to come down today on Trump's immunity. What are you expecting to hear?
I think the court is going to be very Solomonic and cut the baby in half and say... if whatever the president does as president, in this case Donald Trump on January 6th, was in pursuit of the power given to him under the Constitution, he is immune from criminal prosecution. But if whatever the president does is in pursuit of some further interest and is outside the powers of the presidency and has a criminal context, he is not immune. Now, how do you decide that? Only a jury can decide. So I think, just my guess, obviously I haven't seen the opinion, we'll all see it in 90 minutes, that they're going to send it back to the trial court and instruct the trial court to instruct the jury to decide what was personal and what was presidential.
Okay, just quickly,
they can't say there's no immunity whatsoever because presidents would be afraid of their own shadow. And they can't say he's immune from everything because then he wouldn't be a president, he'd be a prince. There has to be some middle ground that accommodates the rule of law and the need of the American public for a strong president.
That is former New Jersey Superior Court Judge Andrew Napolitano on this morning's edition of Wake Up America. Keep up with all of the news on Newsmax and at Newsmax.com. Make sure you're streaming on the new Newsmax Plus. Go to NewsmaxPlus.com. Get signed up for it today if you don't already have it. You can get all of your favorite shows like Rob Schmidt Tonight, Greg Kelly Reports, Wake Up America, Frontline with Carl Higbee, The Record with Greta Van Susteren, analysis from people like Governor Mike Huckabee, Judge Andrew Napolitano, former Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, Professor Alan Dershowitz, political analysis with Mark Halpern, and much, much more. NewsmaxPlus.com. I'm Tony Marino. This is the Newsmax Daily Podcast. Please subscribe from wherever you may be listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or at Newsmax.com. You can simply click on the podcast link and subscribe from there as well. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of the day and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.